Welcome to something a bit different. I realize that whenever I react to Nintendo Directs, I either say nothing because I'm trying to focus on the trailer, or I talk over the trailer to the point where I miss important details. So I wanted to go back through the Direct and give more in-depth thoughts and analyze some of the footage. Starting with Pikmin 4, I am very intrigued by some details that I noticed when watching it back later on. It's around here, we have a Blowhog, but after this scene, we also have a new enemy type. We have baby Snagrets. I like how they still have one leg, so they're very identifiable, but also in the distance, you have a Castanet. I double checked because I thought it looked like an item from Pikmin 2, and that is the harmonic synthesizer from the Glutton's Kitchen. We also have these little rocks next to the Snagrets, and they appear a couple of times, and I'm really curious to see what those are. Are they basically like rocks that you get nectar out of in the previous games, but they're redesigned? Do they work with the ice Pikmin because they're the same shade of blue? I'm really curious to see what that's all about. I'm also confused by how many characters are actually playable, to be honest, because in a lot of scenes you only see this one character, but in other scenes you see 4 characters, but there's a couple of things that make me wonder if this game might not have a co-op, or a co-op campaign. So, I really like the look of this game. I like how it's incorporating more real-world elements. You know, Pikmin has always been set on Earth, but actually acknowledging, garden elements and having a house in the background, it makes it feel more, grounded in reality. Also, was it after this scene? Yeah, when they scale up, we have a new enemy. Who knows what the heck this is? I hope the Piccolopedia's back and in the game at launch, because it actually wasn't in Pikmin 3. It was added for Deluxe. So I really hope that's in the game by default. So yeah, we have binoculars. To my knowledge, that is not a thing from the previous games. The Ice Pikmin, design-wise, are very fascinating to me. They remind me a little bit of a hybrid of Purple Pikmin in design, but with the sort of rocky, angular design of the Rock Pikmin. Also, I realized something about this. The Ice Pikmin have yellow flowers, which is different than the other Pikmin types that we've seen so far, but also in this intro scene, it looks like it's either in a cavern like the Rock Pikmin in Pikmin 3, but alternatively, this could be a subterranean area. As long as they don't require you to have 100 of these from just Candy Pop flowers, that'll be fine. But I hope they're a little bit easier to obtain than the Purple Pikmin, given that the Purple Pikmin were extremely required for a lot of things. Also worth mentioning, if an enemy eats an Ice Pikmin, it sort of acts like a bitter spray, actually. It immobilizes the enemy and freezes them, but also when the enemy is defeated, they shatter, and in this case, they actually leave nectar behind. If sprays return, I wonder if you could get more by defeating frozen enemies, but the trade-off is, unlike the bitter spray, in this case you have to sacrifice a Pikmin in order to actually freeze an enemy, which is actually an interesting compromise in terms of making the fight easier, but you do have to sacrifice a Pikmin. So for me, someone who likes to do deathless runs, I wouldn't actually be able to use Ice Pikmin in that way. I'm also a little bit worried about blue Pikmin. There are no blue Pikmin in the scene. In general, I feel like Pikmin sometimes struggles as a franchise to balance Pikmin types. Other than underwater treasures, a lot of treasures were actually collectible with flying Pikmin in 3, instead of having to cross through the water. So with Ice Pikmin, I'm curious to see how they balance the different Pikmin types. But yeah, it's also very interesting that there are no blue Pikmin in the scene at all. But yeah, the ability to freeze water is interesting. The dog, Oatchi, is actually very fascinating. I realized something and felt really stupid afterwards. I got thinking, hours after the Direct, why is the dog named Oatchi? Apparently it might be kind of a pun, because if you read it phonetically in Japanese, it's more like Owachi, which almost sounds like, watch, as in it's a watchdog. But it occurred to me, oat, this is a bread bug. And I can't believe I didn't realize it sooner, specifically with this scene right here. The way it's carrying the Bulborb back is very reminiscent to a bread bug. So yeah, I can't believe I didn't realize it sooner. I really like this, actually, being able to actually carry Pikmin across water, but what is this gauge? Is there like a stamina gauge for Oatchi? Which would be interesting. I see a toy ship also. That looks really cool. That's obviously a treasure. Another thing is being ice instead of rocks, you know, seeing a Wollywog in the background. Will the ice Pikmin still be immune to crushing damage, for example? Because being ice, I would think they would shatter from being crushed, meaning enemies like this and potentially long legs enemies, which there is one later on, might be a problem in this game. It might be a lot tougher. I'm interested, but also a little bit concerned that this is a Pikmin 2 scenario where Pikmin 3 isn't too bad, but like Pikmin 4 could be a course correction where they make the game too difficult. So I'm a little bit worried about that the difficulty might be more like Pikmin 2 levels, especially with the addition of underground areas. I'm really curious about the castaway system. Like, are these playable characters, or are these like just NPCs that you rescue? We have named characters, we have 4 named characters, but most of the time you only see the one. Like, in this scene here, you have Shepard and Colin talking to the main character, but they're not present here, which I find really interesting. Also, this enemy is ridiculous. We have a new long legs. It's like decaying though, like 2 of its legs, and actually part of its right leg here, are kind of decaying, like it's sort of skeletal, which is like, even by Pikmin standards, this is like a ridiculously terrifying enemy design. Pikmin often has like really scary enemies for like an E-rated game like this, but this definitely takes the cake for one of the more messed up designs that I've seen in the series. I'm actually very interested. Also, it looks like the poison effect from the puff stool might be back, because all the Pikmin under the orb look like they're poisoned, which is very interesting that they seem to be bringing that mechanic back. So yeah, it's very interesting. Also, like, did a number pop up briefly? I think it did. Yeah, it was like, that could have been the cursor, actually, probably to throw 5 yellow Pikmin, actually, never mind. And we also have the Empress Ball Blacks once again. I was trying to spot the color of one of the sprays that dropped. That looked kind of orange. I can't tell if that's like a bitter spray or if that's nectar and it's just the cave lighting. Like, I might just be reading too much into it, but I'm very curious to see how this goes. Again, if you haven't seen it, I just recently did a playthrough of Pikmin 2, Deathless, which was an ordeal because of this boss fight in particular for one of the caverns. So I can't say I'm overly excited about seeing the Empress Ball Blacks return, and I'm also very uncertain of how to feel about caverns returning, just because, again, if they're balanced correctly, I think the concept of caverns could be really fun. But the problem with Pikmin 2 is they're so wildly imbalanced because they're like, it saves every floor, just reload the game. So they just throw everything at you all at once, and it's overwhelming. So like, if you try to do a run where you don't reset, that's miserable. If you allow yourself to reset in Pikmin 2, the game's a lot more manageable. But here, actually, it's the next scene. I noticed something interesting. The main playable captain goes into this research pod with the dog. The other 3 do not follow her, and the pod takes off. My theory is, after the scene cuts away, the 3, like, this is like a truncated version of the scene, but like the full scene, the pod takes off, and then afterwards the 3 on the ground end up going to the ship over there, or something? Also, wait. The onion is red, yellow, and blue. So, is this from an earlier point where you don't have Ice Pikmin, or do Ice Pikmin go somewhere else, a la the white and purple Pikmin in 2? Again, it's very fascinating, given the overall reception to 2, that this game seems to actually be taking a lot from that game. Also, it's taking off really early, too. Like, I'm trying to gauge time of day for this scene, and yeah, it's daytime. Like, why are they leaving in the day? But also, there's obviously the question after this part of why are they out at night, seemingly. Also, there's a Japanese candy, I think it's Konpaito, which are basically now best known, or Konpeito, that are basically best known known as Star Bits from Mario Galaxy, or the Gratitude Crystals from Skyward Sword. So I find it funny that this is like the third major Nintendo game and not too long of a time span to have Konpeito as a like some kind of item. But anyway, there's some kind of nighttime element that's very fascinating. Previously, Pikmin games didn't allow you to go out at night. The only nighttime level in the series up to this point was in challenge mode, in 2, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think 3's challenge mode had any nighttime levels, but 2's did. So yeah, it's all very fascinating. I'm very curious to see more. I'm sure there'll be like a Treehouse presentation or dedicated direct or something at some point. Maybe like in June, like E3 time. So yeah, I'm very curious about this game in particular. I really like Pikmin, but there's a mix of things that are like both really cool, but also like I hope they learned the right lessons from Pikmin 2, because Pikmin 2 on paper is not a bad game, it's just the execution of a lot of the concepts was very dodgy. Obviously, the next major thing I wanted to mention was Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I really like all these costumes, by the way. I like how the Kevis trio have costumes based on the Xenoblade 1 cast, and the Agnes trio have costumes based on Xenoblade 2. So you have Rex, you have, not Rex, you have Noah as Shulk from Future Connected, you have Melia from Future Connected for Uni, you have Lance as Ryan, Sen as Bridget, Neo as Nia. I was trying to say it the right way and I said it wrong anyway. And Tyon as Jin, which is a very fascinating choice. So yeah, that's really cool. I wonder if these will be the only costumes. I hope there are more, to be honest. But obviously the thing most people are excited about, and I didn't actually talk at all about, was the story trailer, which is very fascinating, having Alvis back, since he kind of dropped out of the franchise after the first game. Without going into too much detail, here we have what looks kind of like Gower Plains. Like there's the bridge that like Juju crashed the vehicle on. So yeah, we don't get much from this trailer, but it's very fascinating. We have this character here who we believe is one of the founders, but also they appear in the concept art for the expansion pass menu in the game to have the same gauntlet that Noah has. So that's very fascinating. We also have like Rex, who everyone is very much discussing for a multitude of reasons in terms of the glow up there. But yeah, there's not a whole lot to dissect from this like 20-second teaser, but I do find it really interesting. So yeah, in general, this was a pretty interesting direct. Again, Samba de Amigo is cool, and again, I hope more dormant Sega franchises can come back in the future. Fashion Dreamer, I found out, actually, from what I can tell, might be the same developers as Style Savvy, but just not published by Nintendo anymore, so that's why it's like a new series by Xseed, but it appears to be the same like development team, which is interesting. Dead Cells I talked a bit about. Ghost Trick, again, it's cool that this exists at all. I'm definitely curious to see how this goes without necessarily having touch inputs on all versions, because this will be coming out on all platforms. We have Deca Police again. Again, the most interesting thing was partway through the trailer when combat showed up, my brain immediately went, why does this kind of feel like, you know, Yokai Watch, Ni no Kuni, in terms of the overall vibe of this combat? And then at the end of the trailer, when it says, "Oh, level 5," it's like that was the coolest part about it, because that was like, oh, maybe they're finally getting back on their feet. And then we got so many more level 5 games. Trying to think of anything else. We Love Katamari was interesting because they're actually adding the king as a playable character for certain bonus levels. I missed that there were bonus levels, actually. It's not like I wasn't already excited for more Katamari, but having bonus challenges with the king is definitely cool. Also we have a photo mode, which is an interesting addition for Katamari. I'm trying to think of anything else I didn't really cover. With Metroid Prime, I wanted to briefly mention that people, because the game is out digitally, people have also done performance testing, and it's actually super impressive, but there are several like graphical glitches that people are debating whether they're like artistic choices or like a messed up like effect, basically. Like, some of the doors don't look the same as they do in the original, so some are debating if it's like an artistic choice or if it's like a glitch like texture, like the door over here. It runs at like 900p docked and like between 6 and 700p in handheld mode, so it's not native resolution, but all the impressions I've seen are like glowing so far. So Metroid Dread also was like 900p and also was quite stunning. There are also tons of accessibility options and gyro, which I'm happy about, and even like a control option to make it closer to like the Wii version. So yeah, overall, people are really impressed by this remaster. It makes me wonder if Prime 2 and 3 will get the same treatment someday. Apparently Iron Galaxy also worked on this port or remaster, the studio behind the Skyrim Switch port, if I'm not mistaken. So people believe if Retro's too busy with 4, then Iron Galaxy could pick up 2 and 3 and remaster those, basically. Bankaidos 1 and 2 will not have a dub, which actually lines up with a lot of Namco remasters lately. Katamari and Klonoa both had their English dubs removed for the remaster, so I'm not overly shocked by this, but this was also a notoriously bad dub, so that's kind of a shame in a way. Fantasy Life is interesting because I didn't really catch on that it feels a little bit more like Animal Crossing. Like, you're basically trying to develop this town. So I'm really curious to see if there's like more outside of the town, so it's more like a traditional RPG beyond this little town, or if it's mostly just like a build up the city life sim kind of game. So I'm curious to see how this goes. I'm cautiously optimistic because, again, I really like Fantasy Life, and I really want this franchise to succeed. Obviously Layton, there's not a whole lot to say, unfortunately. Luke is in artwork for this game, and people are trying to figure out where it takes place. It's sometime closer to the original timeline. It's not like doing a time skip to the Catriel like time period. For Mario Kart, all of the upcoming waves will have bonus characters also. The number is not confirmed, but apparently the website does mention additional characters for the later waves, which I'm excited about. And then obviously the final game shown off was Zelda, which again I was so focused on, I didn't comment at all about this trailer. To be honest, I feel like Zelda's really fascinating because they're trying to not talk about this game as much as they can get away with. We obviously have these flying enemies there. The overall atmosphere looks really interesting. You have spotlights around the towers now, and you have this glowing thing off in the distance. I feel like in this trailer, you don't get to see the other Link design very much. It's mostly like Breath of the Wild Link, but with the different arm, while there's the other, Link with, the long hair and everything, and I don't think we actually see that Link. We also have that green glowing thing in this scene, and I wonder what that is, if that's like a portal to the sky? Yeah, Blood Moon, a Blood Moon, so I guess that mechanic is probably back, or it's story-tied, because it's in this cutscene. Again, this is a weird game for me because on one hand, I kind of want to go in with, minimal knowledge because I know I'll like it. It's a Zelda game. The odds of me not liking this game are extraordinarily slim because I like almost every Zelda game at this point. We have these, Guardian machines there, new type of Bokoblin, we have the, place with the one really annoying shrine quest where you have to, wait for a specific time of day, if I'm remembering correctly. I remember Cass was there. We have more interaction between enemies where the one was carrying the other. We have Ganon, obviously.
I'm sure you'll be able to stop him.
The sky is interesting. Again, people wonder if an underground area could come up because like there's this like red portal in the background also. So like what's that? Like are green portals to the sky? Are red portals to underground? It's like it comes out in 3 months and it feels like we still know so little about this game. We have a homing arrow, we have grind rails. Later on, Link actually like starts scrounging up parts to build vehicles. So like it seems interesting, it's just we still don't know much about it. And it's like, yeah, 3 months away. But the one recurring thing is with all of these machines, there's like this like green, like, I guess it's like a glue, I suppose. So I wonder how that plays into it, because like all of the machines, like this car, this like balloon, you can see this like green substance around the top of it, and then with the glider, it's connecting like the fans to this like, I'm guessing that's probably like a door or something, or like a metal slab or something. So yeah, it's like, how does this work? Like, we know so little. Like, I hope there could be a direct in like April or March that sheds a little bit more light on this. But it still feels like we know very little about this game and it comes out so soon, which again is equal parts terrifying and exciting for me as a Zelda fan. Again, I'm pretty sure I'll enjoy this game because, again, the amount of Zelda games I haven't enjoyed is extraordinarily low. But on the other hand, it is weird having this little information about a new Zelda game. Breath of the Wild they had to really hype up because it's the first game of its style. This game being a sequel, it almost feels like we don't have to hype it up. It doesn't have to be hyped up as much, but I still feel like they could do a little bit more. But yeah, I fully expect like a full direct at some point to give a little bit more insight into like the new mechanics and everything. So yeah, I expect that around March or April. I probably wouldn't do a reaction to a solo game direct, like, you know, Xenoblade or Splatoon, or Zelda in this case. The next time I do a reaction video will either be if Nintendo does another direct at a reasonable hour, for like June or September, or if there's like a state of play, like between now and then. Again, I've actually tried to do state of play reactions before, but I've always had technical problems, so I've actually never been able to post one, unfortunately, because some of the state of plays lately have actually been pretty cool. But again, I haven't been able to actually get everything to work out for those. Either way, this was different, trying to do like an analysis type video of a couple of the trailers. If you enjoyed this video, let me know, and if you have thoughts as well, also let me know. And also, I'm curious to see what everyone thinks about this direct in general. I really liked it as I continue to think about it. I think this is probably my favorite direct since E3 2019, which is the one with Link's Awakening, Banjo, and Kazooie, and Smash, and the Tears of the Kingdom announcement. Yeah, this is like probably one of my favorite directs. Again, this is not a direct for everybody. Like, I was trying to think about it, and I don't think there were like any, yeah, there was like nothing really from first party studios for Nintendo. It's mostly like other than remasters, and Zelda, obviously. But in general, in terms of like overall, and also, Pikmin 4, I mean, but we already knew about that. But in terms of third party, just getting the revival of Level 5 alone was enough for me to be relatively excited, or extremely excited, actually. And then I'm also really happy about Baten Kaitos 1 and 2 being real, Metroid Prime finally happening, and obviously I'm super excited for Pikmin 4 and Tears of the Kingdom. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching.